Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking and it means a lot to you guys. Keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we're talking Survivor 43, episode 7. An episode for me that was kind of dull, as the first half of the episode was one giant challenge, but I think had its interesting moments with a pretty confusing blindside, as well as really one of the most miserable ways to lose an advantage. If you guys haven't already, make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff because it's free, it's easy, and it really helps channel out. So the episode opens up with Janine kind of realizing how much trouble she's in, the fact that she's kind of invested her entire game into Ellie, someone who she really doesn't have anymore. So she now has to kind of recollect her game. Noelle comes to comfort her mainly, kind of telling her that it had happened with Noelle when Justine went out during that pre-merge vote, because Noelle and Justine were super close, just like Ellie and Janine were, and that she just needs to take it as a blessing and move on in the game. She says that to many people after this, saying, well, I'm just happy to play my own game now, when in reality she's obviously nervous. We then get a scene with Gabler where he basically confirms that he does not regret his move against Ellie, saying that Ellie did not really give him that much trust and he didn't trust her, and it made sense for her to go, and that he now kind of wants to fall back into the shadows after emerging to make a big move. The next 25 minutes of this episode is a immunity challenge. They tried to make this as epic as possible. I don't really think it worked out that well, but here's the format. So they had them split up into pairs before the challenge based on a note that came from Tree Mail. They end up drawing paired rocks for the duos. Then we get to the challenge, where it's basically like a round elimination challenge, where if you can get through one round, then you do another challenge. There was 3 rounds, meaning that the first round took 4 duos in, then the second round took 2 duos, and then the third round, those 4 people left from the 2 duos would duel it out in a classic endurance challenge. And I gotta say, this was I mean, it wasn't bad, especially the end with Gabler, because in the end it was Gabler and Sammy, as well as I believe Dwight and one other person that I can't remember. But I think overall, to me, this was not worth the 25-minute runtime. There was moments early on in the challenge where I believe it was Noelle and Janine had let down their partners, and this led to them getting very emotional, saying sorry, and there was like a moment where they're like, it's okay, as long as you try, that's all that matters. And then Jeff was like, oh, how sweet, you know. It's just kind of a waste of time. Like, that would have been cool, but not in an hour-long episode with a boot as confusing as the one coming up. In the end, we see Gabler versus Cody, which is a really fun battle to watch, as Gabler keeps calling on his past heroes, experiences, people in his life, Dr. Patience, because he's a surgeon. You know, he's calling on these people and kind of telling their stories. It did feel a little bit cheesy, but it was definitely the highlight of the challenge, without a doubt, because the rest of the challenge really was not worth the runtime. This was. Okay, so when we get back to camp, Gabler has immunity, and Noelle is the first person to strike, suggesting in front of Owen, Janine, Jesse, and Cody that they keep it 4-4, which means Baca and Vessi stay together against Coco and split the votes on Ryan and James, 4-4-3. This plan would work as long as no one flipped, and they agreed that the socially better player was James, but physically the better player to get out was in fact Ryan. We then see James go with Sammy, Owen, and Dwight to the water well, where they found a bottle and it had an advantage in it. The issue is, obviously, the other 3 know about it, and therefore the whole tribe will eventually know about it. They all knew this and said, we don't want it, but James said, I'll take it. He asked any of them if they wanted it, and they said no, and he opened it. They all read it together. It actually was a clue to the advantage, which said that the advantage is under your shelter right now, and it's up for grabs. And James says, oh, well, I'm not getting that, but then goes and gets it before anyone else can really go snag it. He probably knows that they're going to assume that he has it anyway, since he's on the bottom. So he says, I'm just going to go get it. He gets it. It's the knowledge is power advantage. He then goes and tells about 4 or 5 people. So basically the whole tribe knows about this advantage and that it's in his hands. Not really the best play. You know, it's okay to tell Carla. It's okay to even tell Ryan. But when you start to tell people like Cody and Jesse, it's just too many people. So now that the word is out that James has his advantage, Noelle continues her campaign to target James as the next person to go. The big thing here is that when Jesse's told this, he doesn't really like this as much. He wants to flip the game on Noelle and really make a big blindside. He thinks that it is the time now, and he tells his ally in Carla, of whom he doesn't want to lie to because the plan right now is to split votes on her allies James and Ryan. So he tells her she's down, and then he goes to Cody, but Cody actually wants to blindside Dwight. If they're gonna flip on their, you know, OG tribe, they want to do it on Dwight from Cody's eyes, because Dwight is the bigger threat and Noelle can kind of come back to them, whereas in Dwight would definitely not. And so it's a matter of, are they going to try and blindside Dwight or Noelle, and are they going to be successful with either plan if it does take place? But this is where it gets interesting, because people know that James has the knowledge is power, or at least they assume advantage. So they swap their advantages. So to be clear, Cody gives his idol to Jesse. I know that Janine gives her idol to Dwight, and Noelle gives her steal a vote to Owen. So there's a lot of swapping of advantages. I wouldn't do this personally. I think it's kind of silly. If they're going to steal your advantage, they probably already have the connections to find out who you swapped with. So to me, this is stupid. There's a more of a risk of the person not giving it back or getting voted out with it in their pocket. Whereas in, of course, you know, the risk of getting your advantage stolen, which to this point has never successfully happened, is not necessarily as dangerous. But nonetheless, at Tribal, we see Dwight start to come up in the votes. There is a bunch of votes for both James and Ryan, and then there's enough votes for Dwight to get kind of booted out in a very small plurality vote. It's a very fun vote, but also very confusing, as he really only got one mention, and that was by Jesse and Cody, and it was very quickly. We didn't really get like a big boot edit from him. He got maybe 1 or 2 confessionals rather than the normal 3 or 4 or 5 for a boot episode. I don't know. To me, this was very confusing episode. Wasn't my favorite, probably the worst of the season, but again, not complaining, because a fantastic post-merge has to have its dull moments. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, none of this happens without you guys. I'm just a weird guy speaking in a weird microphone. That's what I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.